tell us, I guess maybe we can start is to the why. Why should somebody write a book?
Yeah, well, the main reason, especially for business leaders or anybody who is just trying to get out there or amplify their name, it's good to have a book out for many different reasons. One, just to hand to a client, something with your name on it adds credibility. Two, it's
When they're reading a draft, they're like, that doesn't sound like, I would never say that. I would
Yeah,
never
no,
say
that
that
happens
thing.
all the time. Yeah, it's so important. I mean, that's the main job of an angel writer or a ghostwriter, depending on the terminology you're using. But you need to get to know your client at least enough to take on their mannerisms. For example,
Hmm.
when I'm working with my authors on mission clients, a lot of times we hop on video calls. We have chats with each other talking about whatever the topic is. And by doing that, I'm recording the conversation so I can look back and figure out by looking at the transcript, what words are they using more frequently? How are they structuring their sentences, for example? What are they not saying that I would not use? They're probably not going to use a certain type of jargon that they haven't already mentioned if, it hasn't come up in the conversation. So all these factors come into play. And, it really does help to have those relationships drawing back to that, because the more you get to know somebody, the more you can write in their voice.
Any stories you can speak of where you've helped somebody and then how that's helped their business and that where that success led?
Many different people.
To put you on the spot. We'll
Hey,
put you right on the spot.
I've got them. I've got them in my back pocket. I've worked with so
Awesome.
many people that I honestly could not. Sometimes I have to look back at people's names, like, what was your book again? But I do have a lot of them stick in my mind. So I mentioned this one particular client earlier in this podcast. He had a YouTube channel, wanted to promote it. So we wrote his book.
Hi, I'm Matt Levenhagen, founder of Unified Web Design, Unified Plugins, and your host of the Builders Podcast. Here on the Builders, our goal is to uncover the first principles behind building businesses, products, and services. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe or follow wherever you're listening. And if you find value in our content, a like, share, or review is always appreciated. Let's dive in and explore the roots of innovation and progress together. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another The Builders. Today, we are joined by Danielle Hutchinson. Welcome to the show, Danielle.
Thank you for having me. It's so much fun to be on today.
So, Danielle is a CCO, a Chief Creative Officer at a place called Authors on Mission.
That is correct. Yeah, I mean, I love what I do. I get to talk to different people every day through my role, bringing their stories to life through angel writing here. It's what we call our ghostwriting services. We also do editing. And of course, we love to have people on our podcast, talking with them, getting to know their stories, promoting their books. And on top of that, I also get to make YouTube videos and blog posts. And the amazing thing is that by doing all of this, I get to form amazing connections with people and learn from them and, help them build their identities, build their brands. And that's what we're all about here on the Builders podcast. So I think it's going to be a fun conversation.
Building. Yeah, we're going to dig into, we're going to kind of ground it in building, brand identity through becoming an author, writing a book, and that type of thing. But before we get into that, I'm curious about Danielle and what her story is, why you've landed where you are today, doing the amazing things you're doing in the world and for your company, and kind of obviously there's creative in your title. Where did that creativity come from? Tell us your story a little bit, and
Yeah, definitely. So I was working as a teacher for many years, teaching English, teaching preschool, even just going all different places with it. And I loved it. I went to school for it. It's exactly what I, thought I wanted in life forever. But then, things started to change. And I realized, why not branch out? I've always loved writing, especially, during the pandemic and other times when I had to stay at home for different reasons. I'd always loved to journal and write. Started to branch out doing freelance work. And I was lucky enough that my career through there just skyrocketed. I started making triple my teacher's salary every month, just doing that. And
wow.
It just exactly. And I loved everything. I got to write books, write other people's books, but always something new and fun, starting from, steamy romances to, now I'm doing like, politics books and, books about business and AI and technology. It's topics that, me as an elementary school teacher would have never assumed I would even know anything about. And it's just amplified everything. I've gotten to travel the world a couple times. I've, have my own podcast now. I get to talk to really cool people like you. So I guess you could say I also built myself up by doing that. And I actually do also still balance the teaching between all of this, because why not? I can still manage it. It's fun. It's a little hobby now, but this is my main gig, and I love it. It's great.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
a lot, right?
So you did freelancing. Like, how did you get into freelancing? Like, where did that become an idea? Like, you were teaching, but there must have been some spark, or you're talking to somebody like, you could do this writing on the side. And how did that come about?
Yeah, it was my boyfriend actually who suggested it. We realized we had a lot of free time on our hands. We're like, why not just dabble at it? He knew I was really interested in books and reading and writing. So he was, sometimes you just need that little bit of a nudge. Someone should just say, why not give it a try? And I think it worked out because, luckily enough, we're flexible in our schedules, no kids or anything to worry about. So we just set up a really great routine that way. And he supported me every step of the journey, helped me to scale the business too. Because if it was just me, I probably would have just been dabbling at writing for the small pay. And we kind of just kept growing and growing. So it's always great to have that support system. It's something I would always recommend to anybody out there. You can't build anything if you don't have those support systems, those pillars to help you up there. So
absolutely, it's important to be surrounded by people that support you. I mean, it makes a lot of difference. I'm kind of stuck on the building thing here. I'm curious about this part of your story, because there's a lot of people out there that probably are in some kind of job or career, and they want to do this thing on the side because they have some kind of passion for something, whether it's cooking or writing or whatever it is, and like, how did you, so you got the idea, you got the push, like, where did you get work? Did you through word of mouth, or did you was there a website out there that helped you find work?
I did start off through Upwork, as people are asking me all the time how to get started. I've had multiple people reach out to me, people that work at my school, for instance, wondering, what can I do? How can I do the same thing you did? And I offer it to them. I say, you have to start by getting a profile, and hopefully your listeners can also learn from this too. You have to start small. You can't, immediately start applying to those like $1,000 gigs. You need to, just settle for, okay, this $20 project, it's going to take me a little while. Just got to build up your profile. And then the more projects that you complete, the more you get on that profile, you get good reviews, you build yourself up. And now I have 100% success rate on there, also 5-star reviews, and people just come to me for everything. And it's also, the more you market yourself to being able to take on different types of projects too. I don't specialize in just romance writing now. I do all these other types. I do editing as well. Humanization of AI content is another huge thing coming out right now. And just making yourself as versatile and welcoming in as many customers. Never saying no to a project either. I fit it into my schedule. As you can see, I'm very busy, but it's good busy. And that's how you can really scale yourself. So
absolutely. Yeah, it's hard getting started. I've done freelancing. I mean, I have an agency now, but that's how I got my start in doing what I'm doing. And it was hard in the beginning, but and even you have to kind of do stuff, like I said, for $20 just to get that.
The silly projects. Deal with all the crazy people first,
right, exactly. Take whatever you can, and but then you start building a reputation, and eventually things start coming, or you build relationships, kind of repeatable stuff too, right? That's. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to branch off of the relationships part. The more clients you work with and the more rapport you gain with them, they begin to recommend you to more people they know, eventually start getting outside of the Upwork platform, just because there's so many people. You start doing it privately. I built my own company kind of from that. And then also was hired by Authors on Mission and joined their forces. And here we are now. So it is really all about those connections and the people and, the more you get your name out there by doing what you do and doing it well, it's just going to keep skyrocketing. So,
well, that's what's key. And I think I don't know that there's a secret to it. I think maybe if you call it a secret, it is building those relationships, those connections, but also doing good work, and proving to the world that, you're legitimate and you're not just a random person that's kind of just doing this, kind of hacking their way through it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's so many people out there who do just rush through a job and send it back to somebody. And I usually end up being the one to correct those problems. So many clients have come to me with,
Yeah.
I had this other person write my book and it's terrible. And so, I'm like, oh, no worries. I'll help you out. We'll fix this. So always, I guess, for anybody listening who's on the other side of the tracks, make sure you're working with the right person for the right job too.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've gotten work for that reason too. I'm fixing somebody else's work.
Yeah. I guess,
The mess
if we're
they
gonna
left behind.
if we're gonna keep the builder's metaphor going on here, then in that case you're doing the repairs of
Right.
another building, I
Yeah. Yep. To fix it. Yep. Yeah. So you're okay. So you did the freelancing, and then you said something about you kind of built your company. Now, what's that? That's it.
Yeah.
Is
So
that the same thing, or spun off, or something different?
a little bit, yeah. I started a little side business, just doing things privately off of Upwork, just because clients on there are great. Always good to expand. So I do have a separate website for that, but my main enterprise is Authors on Mission, where I do, direct a lot of clients as well, because we do exactly the same things. We're helping you write your books through ghostwriting, editing, marketing, the whole nine. So that's kind of what I'm doing in that regard.
So Ghost on Mission found you. How did that connection happen?
Authors on Mission, they reached out to me. They found out that I can do some great ghost writing. We call it angel writing with us. It's just a funny play on words. I always like to say, would you rather have a ghost over your shoulder helping you out or an angel? And, we're kind of like your angels. We work through every step of the process and help you get your voice out there for whatever stage of the process you might be on. So
That's
they
awesome.
helped me with that. I loved it. I started just by writing for them. And I eventually wrote like 5 different books for them. And one day I was actually traveling. I was in Singapore, and the CEO, Vikrant, he's an amazing guy. He reached out to me. So midnight my time, when I was over there due to time differences, we got on a video call and he asked me, he was like, what do you think about being the chief creative officer? I was like, I would love to, please. Yeah. So it was just really cool to get that news super late. My boyfriend and I went out and celebrated right after, and we had a great time. And now here I am, and it's the best thing out there. And I highly recommend to anybody, first, if you're looking to get your story out there, it's an amazing way to do it. But also just keep trying. Like, the way that I got here was just by small steps and doing it well. So.
Well, that's what I love about it. I love the thread in this story. Like, I mean, you found your passion. You found something, you love to do. You got really good at it. You cared about it. You cared about delivering a quality product, and you just worked honing that craft. And then you just kept going. Somebody noticed you, brought you in, you did some writing, and then the next thing you know, you're getting upgraded.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Exactly. Go ahead.
No, I mean, it's just, like I said, is there a secret to success? I mean, a secret to success is just doing the work, doing it well, and making those connections and believing in yourself and keep trying. I'm sure you fell down a few times along the way. I don't know if you got any of those stories, but it's like I think about myself with my web design agency. When I turned early 40s, I had been doing other stuff for years and years. I was doing internet marketing stuff. I was doing all kinds of other things. And it was that moment where it was one of those pivotal moments where I was kind of assessing my life, like where I've been, which hasn't been working lately, and where I could go. And I'm like, well, I really like building websites. I like doing that work. I like creating websites, designing, developing them. I like being in the code and doing all that stuff. And so I spent years, that's when I started freelancing. I spent years honing my craft, talking to people, getting out there. I got noticed. Actually became a developer for a company for like 3-4 years for a corporation. And then went from there and ended up starting my own agency. But it's that whole time, it was like, deciding this is my thing, this is my passion, this is what I love to do, and just working on it and waiting for the opportunities to rise, because they will come if you focus on that. But anyway, so that's your story.
Yeah,
that's
well,
what we
just
had.
To branch off of
Yeah.
that, though, I mean, I understand what you mean completely, and it's not to be
Yeah.
too cliche, but you never work a day in your life if you love what you do, and you really do seem to love the web design. And I get that. Hopefully, everybody listening today has tried out your services too, and because I think everyone could use a website regardless of what they're doing in life, their brand. Everyone can have that landing page. But yeah, it's great that you're able to make those connections with people and meet somebody new all the time. I'm sure you've had some crazy website design stories. Like, why is this person even making a website for this? But I'm sure it's, the same
There's a
reason.
lot of stories. Yeah.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I get people wanting to write a book about, the most bizarre topics. And I'm like, okay, let's do it, So it's
Yeah.
just fun to see where people are and learn from them and, get all different perspectives. So I can connect with you on that.
Very cool. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about what we're talking about or kind of decided what we're going to talk about today. At the core is how somebody can actually get a book written. I think we're going to talk about books specifically. I don't know if there's other media that you help with or flavors of that, but and creating a legacy or a brand identity from that. Like tell us, I guess maybe we can start is to the why. Why should somebody write a book?
Yeah, well, the main reason, especially for business leaders or anybody who is, just trying to get out there or amplify their name, it's good to have a book out for many different reasons. One, just to hand to a client, something with your name on it adds credibility. Two, it's a way to just draw in more clients and, more recognition for your brand. They read your book, they like your message, they like your story. Then you have the call to action at the end. Check out our website. See what more we have to offer. It just goes on and on and on. So, and countless reasons to write. And especially when it comes to building up that brand, it can leverage into many different things. You have your book out there, then you could turn that book into more content, maybe, YouTube videos, podcasts, speaking engagements, and it all just funnels down into helping you with that ultimate goal of building yourself up. So
it kind of ties into what we've been talking about. Like you kind of find your thing, kind of your center, what you're passionate about and what you know inside and out. And that helps you build that credibility and authority to, and attract more business, attract more clients or whatever it is you're doing. So how does somebody decide like what they write about though? Like they have a business, maybe they have a small business or something, and I don't know what they're doing. I mean, but do they write something related to their business, or do they have to worry about finding some kind of special thing that's going to set them apart from everybody else?
So that's something I talk to my clients about a lot, especially in the beginning stages, regardless of if they're with me privately or through Authors on Mission. It's a huge conversation because it's ultimately going to drive the entire course of the book and the writing process moving forward. So we always have to have a chat and think about, okay, what's your core mission? What are your values? What makes you and your company or brand different than others? What about it makes you stand out? So that's where you would decide maybe you want to go a certain direction based on that. Maybe, for some reason, if your brand is more targeted toward personal aspects, you want to talk more about a personal story, or if it's more it's more about, interbusiness relationships, maybe you want to talk more about business successes. So it really depends on that. And once you have that laid out, you need to figure out what your target audience is. That's a huge thing, who you're speaking to and why. You wouldn't just go fishing and throw a hook in the ocean and hope for any type of fish just to latch on. You need to have that specific bait and figure out who exactly are you speaking to. Yeah. So I guess those are the first two steps to figure out what it's going to be.
That's stressful though.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so I've done some writing over the years and like we've talked about, I might be on your podcast to talk about it a little bit. My past experiences, what I'm doing today, kind of leading up to it, because I hope to read it. I think I got a book in me someday. But I do have a guide out there that I wrote actually last year. And the process of me deciding what that topic was going to be, I don't know if it's stressful, but it took a lot of thought and because I realized I'm going to spend this time on this thing. Now I'm locked in. Like I could do all these different things. I could talk, like for me, I could talk about, because we do a range of things. It's not just design and development. It's about the actually extending teams and partnerships. And I actually ended up talking about strategic partnerships because I felt that was something unique to what we do and how we kind of message things. And it's something I have expertise with and building teams and that stuff. And so that's the route I took. But I also could have I could have wrote something about design or development or some other angle. And but you have to find. I don't know. I think my was always trying to figure out like what the funnel was. Mm-hmm. And would this work and actually does it serve everything else I'm doing? And do other people struggle with that?
I have to say yes and no. Some people do come to us and they know exactly what they want, and we're in their hands, and we help them get to where they need to be based on their existing goals. But you're right, people have come to me like, for example, I worked with this one amazing client. He had a YouTube channel. He wanted to write a book to keep furthering his brand. So we and him had to talk a little bit about what exactly that message is, exactly like you had, brainstorming, kind of weighing the pros and cons. You don't want a message that's going to counteract your existing brand, for example. You want to make sure it's going to be something that's evergreen. Don't hone in on it, whatever the current trends might be, for example.
Right.
Yeah, it has to keep lasting you. And that's where it does get challenging. But it's a matter of really just weighing out your options and figuring out what, at the end of the day, is going to help you, further your brand, regardless of the direction the book does take. And keep in mind, too, Matt, you can always write more books. There's authors out there with hundreds of books under their name. It could be anything. But if you're trying to target your book specifically to amplify your brand, it has to be, the perfect pick. So I get what you mean by that.
I think the big tip here or takeaway I would think I'm guessing is really you're just not writing anything. You're just not writing, and it's not just about what you're passionate about. Like if you want it to really be impactful and successful and help you succeed and build your brand, right? You have to think about how it ties into everything and where that's going to take you. So, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it's not just kind of picking something out of thin air. It's a process.
It is a process. And, branching off of what you said about, where it's going to take you, that's another whole part of the planning process as well. You don't want your book to just sit on a shelf and remain on that shelf. You want to draw more from it. I mentioned before about how it could lead into more media options, for example, YouTube videos, speaking engagements, TED Talks, anything in between. So one way to make sure you do that is when you're writing your book, you're teaching. You're not just telling. You're offering those actionable steps, giving people something to apply and to see results. It helps your credibility grow. It helps you, branch it further into other platforms. And that's how you can continue building from there. Even more so, maybe your book leads into another book too, and that's how you can continue to write about different topics also. So just so many different ways.
So it's just a doorway. It's a starting point that so many other opportunities can come out of. So what's the process like for? So I mean, not everybody's a writer.
Yeah.
Is everybody that comes to you like they have like an English major and they know exactly how to write a book or how to at least instruct you to help them write a book?
Oh, absolutely not. We have people who, are you kidding me? People, they don't, a lot of people, well, first off, okay. I would like to say everybody does have a writer in them. If you have an idea and you're writing it even in, bullet point notes on your phone app, then that's writing. That's your message. That makes you a writer. But the difference is when you're working with a team of people like us at Authors on Mission, you have your angel writer by your side helping on your behalf. That's what helps you do it well. So that being said, a lot of people come to us. They're, one, very busy. They're entrepreneurs, they're business leaders, they're politicians. And they just simply don't have time to sit down and spend hours and hours to write. So that's where we come in and help them. So to answer your question, you asked about the process, I believe, right? Mm-hmm. So it begins first off that planning phase, like I just talked about, making sure we have the message clear. And that's when we build that outline, which if we're talking about books, the outline is your blueprint. You can't just start stacking pieces of timber and wood or whatever goes into a house without having a plan for it. So that's the first step. We work together hand in hand and figure out exactly what's going in every single chapter down to a T. Especially with my freelance clients, we need to make sure we're in agreement with it, because you don't want to have to go back and rewrite and revise. That's from the freelancer speaking. I'm sure when you're building your website design, you probably have a clear plan with your clients too. You don't want to keep having to go in and, reconfigure everything just because they don't like a certain design, right? It's all about that planning stage.
Right. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And, after that, then we just begin writing. So for me, I like to write a chapter every week for my clients. I send it to them for their review. And then depending on how involved they want to be, we either hop on a Zoom call to discuss that chapter and just talk about the next chapter, or they might just send me a message and say, sounds good, let's keep writing. And regardless of how that goes, we just continue in a cycle. And it's very hands-on as you need it to be. And then eventually when we're all done and ready to go, it goes on to the editing stage, then the formatting stage. At Authors on Mission, we also allow, you're very hands-on, but we send the cover design to a bunch of different artists. You get to choose between ones you like best. It's very collaborative. So that's kind of an overview of how we do things. But
do you work hard on, is it important? You talk about writing in somebody's voice, right? Mm-hmm. Even if you have a ghostwriter for doing articles for you or blog or other things, is that something you work with them as well on? Make sure that this sounds like that person would be, or when they're reading a draft, they're like, that doesn't sound like, I would never say that.
Yeah, no, that happens all the time. Yeah, it's so important. I mean, that's the main job of an angel writer or a ghostwriter, depending on the terminology you're using. But you need to get to know your client at least enough to take on their mannerisms. For example, when I'm working with my Authors on Mission clients, a lot of times we hop on video calls. We have chats with each other talking about whatever the topic is. And by doing that, I'm recording the conversation so I can look back and figure out by looking at the transcript, what words are they using more frequently? How are they structuring their sentences, for example? What are they not saying that I would not use? They're probably not going to use a certain type of jargon that they haven't already mentioned if, it hasn't come up in the conversation. So all these factors come into play. And, it really does help to have those relationships drawing back to that, because the more you get to know somebody, the more you can write in their voice. Some of my clients, we've hopped on together. We each have a beer or a glass of wine, and we're just chatting, and it helps us to get to know each other. That being said, not everybody has time to sit on a video call with their ghostwriter and have a buddy-buddy conversation. So that's when I ask for sample work or other writings they've done, or even links to videos that they have online. It helps me just get a good idea for who they are. And the main thing I also look for is what excites them. Sometimes someone's talking and their voice just gets louder and louder and they're looking forward to it. And that's also how you know what to emphasize in your chapters, because that's what they're passionate about. So all of that comes into play. Yeah.
That's really good. Cause we're talking about ghostwriting here. We're talking about, having somebody, write something for you, but your name's going to be on it at the end of the day. It's actually, as far as the world knows, you wrote it.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to hear that, how that process is, because there's so many nuances to that. I mean, we use AI now all the time, for everything. And how many times you have AI write something for you and I don't punctuate things that way. I don't use that long dash all the time.
Yeah, I hate those M dashes. My goodness. And to tell me the amount of times first off, humanizing is a huge thing nowadays. So many people try to use AI to write their manuscripts, and they bring it to me like, can you make this sound more human? I'm like, well, you could have just had me ghostwrite from the beginning, but no problem. Let's jump in and we'll make it more human and make it sound more like you. And the sentence I hate that AI does, it's that it's not X, it's Y sentence structure. It's not about this, it's really about this. That's just, it's so repetitive. It always comes up like that. If you ever read an AI generated manuscript, it's going to be all over the place, along with a lot of other keywords. I could talk for days about all of the humanization that goes into that. But so branching off of the ghostwriting that you mentioned, it's nothing like working with a human person. You get to know them, and that's how you replicate their voice. So.
Yeah, it's interesting because, obviously everyone's worried about their job, not only their jobs being taken by AI, but they also think, well, can AI do everything?
Mm.
And I can, working with code, tell you that it can do some things.
Yeah.
But you need some kind of oversight, somebody that knows what they're doing, and like I said, like I don't see, from what I'm hearing, I don't see you being replaced or somebody just using AI to write books for them anytime soon, because it's this collaborative process. It's learning, it's being human to understand how a human should talk, and and learn from that other human,
Exactly.
and what their mannerisms are and everything.
Yeah, and you work with AI and technology all the time, so you understand that if somebody did use the system well enough and really trained it and was very careful with what they were putting into the system, it could probably sound pretty similar to them if they were, paying attention and putting in the right materials. But a lot of people don't do that, and they kind of just say, write me a book on finance, click, and that's what they get. And I'm being sent manuscripts that literally have at the bottom, ChatGPT can make mistakes. Would you like to ask anything else? And they have that in their manuscript, like within like chapter 2, like mid chapter 2. Yeah, it's like crazy. So it's funny because you can't really do it solely with AI, but the human factor is a whole nother factor, because people rush through things and they're not looking at it, and they just slap their name on that AI manuscript and say, "Yep, that's it." So that's why you need that human, or at least an editor to help you make it so it reads well. So
well, especially for probably larger like books, I can imagine, like, again, kind of comparing it to code, right?
Right.
So I can ask an AI, or this our friend Claude or whoever, to write a whole app for me, a whole plugin. That's going to be a disaster, because it's just much more. It's broad and it's open ended, and it's just gonna, it's hard to do that today. Maybe someday, but it's better to break it into smaller chunks, and it can help you with little things and specific things. But I would think the same way with books. It would be hard. It's not going to just write a whole book and just get it right out of the gates. You need somebody like yourself to, even if it was done, to go through and actually probably fix everything. And like you said, you should have probably just started with me to begin with.
Yeah, I know. So many times I get so many just mistakes that other people have made from AI, or from working with a different person, or just trying to rush things, do it the cheap way, or just to get it done. So I totally understand. And this is kind of funny that the small steps is becoming an overarching theme of this episode. I think, start small. Like, if you really want to use AI for it, I don't recommend it, but start small. Ask it to write the first paragraph, then the second paragraph, then the third. Do it small, just like you wouldn't make the whole coding app, like you mentioned. Those small steps is what you can get there. The careful time. And I guess at the end of the day, that's why people work with our company, because you don't have the time to do that. You need a team by your side. Yeah.
That's a huge benefit. And because, I mean, I run a business. That's why I have a hard time thinking about writing my own book. It's because, when am I going to do that? I got a lot of things going on.
Yeah.
But knowing that there's somebody out there to help with that is good. So what you got, the process of, a lot of it's iterative. It's really getting to know the person you're writing for, and that person, getting on calls, having some drinks, getting to know everything involved.
That's not all the time. Some people.
I think it's fun that drinks are involved. I never would have thought.
I mean, it's only been like 1 or 2 clients, and it's funny. He suggested, he was like, "Yo, you want to go grab yourself a beer?" I'm like, "Okay, give me 1 second." I turn off the camera. Why not, right? But it's, it helps you get to know somebody. Why not?
But that's part of their personality.
Exactly. And then other people, I would never. So, I guess it's all about knowing your clients too.
Right.
So.
But yeah, so you go through that process, and then you write you finally have that final copy, and it's approved and everything. Now what does somebody, we're talking about, building, doing something with that, right? To build authority and build, your reputation. Also, like, what's the next step? How do you get it out in the world? What do you, and I guess how you help somebody do that, but anybody, like, how does somebody, these days, get a book out there? How do you market it? Where do you put it? How do you?
Yeah, so with our company, we do offer packages where you get the whole deal. You could you could work with your angel writer, and then it can go straight ahead to our marketing team, and they do help you promote it and also help you book speaking engagements, get you onto TED Talks, onto podcasts, and that's really how you continue building your name, because I've mentioned a couple of times before, your book doesn't just sit there. You have to continue breathing life into it, talking about it, making it known. So that's the next step for you. You need to book those engagements and find the right ones also. You don't want to pop onto a podcast that's completely unrelated to your book and hope people are going to read it.
Right.
Filter them out, pick the right ones. That's something we help you do with Authors on Mission. But even if you're not working with us and you're doing it independently, just scope things out. Wonderful programs out there like Podmatch, for example, help you get out there. And you just have to keep talking about it. So that's the main thing I would say first.
Where do people put it?
Yes, thank you. So yeah, you have to have multiple platforms, social media, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter even, and the more of a following you make yourself, that's how you promote your brand, and that's how you keep those links going whenever you post, get them to click on over. And specifically, if you're thinking logistically, Amazon, of course, is where people are putting all their books nowadays. It's super easy for anybody to self-publish, but again, we help you make the process even easier. And that's kind of how you do it. If you want to get into physical bookstores, that's a whole nother story. That's a much more intensive process that you probably need to work with somebody like us or the publishing company to get there. But
right.
The process it's all out there for you. The world is wide open. So however you want to make it work, it'll work.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and getting it out there and having those conversations, especially gotta love podcasts. It's a great way to talk about your topic, and then obviously have a call to action at the end to go, if you're interested in my book. Yeah, I mean, that's very cool. So somebody kind of lost my train of thought for a second here. I had a really great next thing.
Well, we were talking about what to do after the book, and I actually had another thought too, is offering like free samples of it, or that lead magnet to kind of get people interested. For example, if you have your book out there, put the first chapter on your blog or put it on your website, share it with somebody, do a little read aloud on a live Instagram story, and just simple ways to get people interested. Just another little tip right there for you.
Right. Yeah, right. I mean, you create like mini pieces of content that link back to your book in all kinds of different forms. I know what it was. It was a story. Do you have like any examples like of people you've helped that you've written for? You don't have to even say who they are because you're a ghostwriter or you're private. But any stories you can speak of where you've helped somebody and then how that's helped their business and that where that success led?
Many different people.
To put you on the spot. I'll put you right on the spot.
Hey, I've got them. I've got them in my back pocket. I've worked with so many people that I honestly could not. Sometimes I have to look back at people's names, like, what was your book again? But I do have a lot of them stick in my mind. So I mentioned this one particular client earlier in this podcast. He had a YouTube channel, wanted to promote it. So we wrote his book. We made a 3-step process within his book, a framework to teach people how he did his YouTube videos. A good way to allow readers to learn from what he did while also promoting what he does. One fun thing we did in his book was we not only structured it like the framework with actionable steps that readers could take, but we also put QR codes within the pages of the book. So as you're reading, you could take your phone, scan it, go right to his YouTube videos. And it was kind of just a nice cycle where readers are listening, watching his videos, interacting with his content, which is what his main goal was, but then also reading the book. And then it was just going back and forth. And it really helped him because it just gave him more of an audience on both ends. And this particular client didn't quite go farther with the framework, but now that he had that book with a 3-step framework, he could have branched that off into even more. For example, speaking about that framework on stage, or, making more books based on each step of the framework, even just continuing that content mill. And that's an amazing way to promote yourself and your brand. The more you have out there, the more of an audience you're eventually going to reel in. So that's one example.
I love that.
I have more, but
oh, maybe I'll ask for one more if you don't mind. But before we do that, I love the framework idea, because I think about the little guide that I wrote. That
exactly what you did.
Bigger, but it was a 4-pillar system, right? It was a framework. It's a 4-pillar system 4 pillars that are required to create or build a good, solid strategic partnership between agencies or companies. And having that something unique like that is, that you've poured yourself into, and this is, this is your experience, you believe in it, and it actually works. That's good. That's because that's something you can really speak to. 4 pillars. And what do you have? 3?
Yeah, three steps, basically. Not to give too much out there, but again, people love those numbers, like 3 steps, 4 pillars, 10 easy ways to do this. It gives them something to expect in your book. It also allows them to see, okay, how far along am I as I'm implementing this? People love that kind of thing. So, and it's an amazing tip for anybody listening to try out.
If you got one more quick story and.
I mean, I have somebody else who did go that route. We had, for her, she had like a play on words, like 3 E letters for her step. And I don't want to give too much away about it, but that was just another way, using alliteration and play on words to amplify her methodology. And what she did with that is she went directly into the TED Talks and started speaking about each one. And that in turn was a cross between amplifying her brand, and amplifying her book as well. So just another fun tidbit there. But there's many others. A lot of people do it maybe not even for their brand, but for their legacy as well. One of my clients, he wanted to write a book about his experiences, unfortunately with divorce, and sharing his, story that in that way helped him get through it, but also offered tips for other people that went through it. Many different types of stories, many different goals in mind. But at the end of the day, it's how you structure it and how you target it to the specific audience. So tons of stuff.
You've mentioned TED Talks a few times. I mean, I think of TED Talks. I mean, I know it's on YouTube. I've watched TED Talks for decades, it feels like. But there's the big shows where there's a stage and everyone's out there. But there's like, isn't there like different flavors of that? Or like, what do you mean by when you say TED Talks? How do people get into that kind of thing?
Well, here at Authors on Mission, we help you book those and we help you get onto those. And you're right, there are large scale ones, there are smaller scale ones. A lot of them have to do with a certain theme or topic. For example, one thing else I do as a chief creative officer at Authors on a Mission is coach people for their TED Talks and help them prep for it.
Nice.
And make the speeches. Help them with their speeches. So one person's theme was technology. And so we had to tailor her inspirational message, kind of branching off of that theme. And it's that's kind of how it goes. You need to take your message, alter it a little bit to match that theme of this talk, and make sure you go through the whole process, end with that call to action back to your book, and that's kind of how it works. So I've never been on to talk myself, so I don't know the.
Yeah, I don't know. TED Talks is it's a big brand.
Yeah,
it feels like you don't have to be famous. You don't have to be like this, a professor or somebody that's. You just have to be. You have to just know your topic and find that TED Talk that's going to be, focused on that topic. And
from what I understand, that is the bottom line of it. It's also about making those connections. I think you need to, you have to have somebody kind of reach out on your behalf, from what I understand, and help you get that gig as well. I don't do the bookings, I do the coaching. So that is a question. If you're more interested, then our listeners can pop right on over to Authors on Mission. We could offer you more guidance in that regard. But it's a great way. Yeah.
Well, that's a good, what we call it, a segue into if somebody is interested, or you've piqued their interest, like maybe I want some help writing a book and doing this thing so they can build their brand and build their, brand identity, and through having, becoming an author. And How do they reach out to you? What's the next step for them if they want to speak to you, or do you hang out somewhere on the World Wide Web where they can find you and reach out?
Yeah, well, we are authors on a mission across the board, authorsonmission.com, authors on mission on YouTube and Instagram, as long with our podcast as well. So it's very easy to find us. It's not authors on a mission, just authors on mission. And just go ahead, type that in, and that's how you can find us. I also have a personal Instagram at We Like Books Inc. That's just my personal one, which I post a lot of my own podcasts as well as what Authors on Mission does too. So follow us across the board, and that's how you can get started. Schedule a consultation with our team through the website, and we could help figure out what the best services and packages are for you.
Okay, and you mentioned your podcast. What's the name of your podcast?
Authors on Mission.
Oh, it is Authors on Mission.
It's across the board, Authors on Mission. We have a podcast where
Even the podcast.
Yeah. We have authors come on all the time, talk about their books, talk about their experiences, and also we offer incredible writing tips. So, even if you're somebody wanting to write your own book, you need a little bit of guidance. That's what I chat about. So,
love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Danielle. It's been a real pleasure, and thanks for sharing all that. And it's very interesting. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. I always like talking about my process, what we do here. To everybody listening, go ahead, start writing. Just keep reading, keep writing, keep leading. So thank you so much for having me on.
Keep reading, keep writing, keep leading. Love
yes.
it. All right. Until next time, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Builders Podcast. One more quick note about our sponsors. At Unified Web Design, we're passionate about doing better together, partnering with agencies and businesses to deliver exceptional web design, development, and ongoing support. And Unified Plugins offers tools to take your WordPress projects to the next level, helping you build beautiful websites, enhance functionality, and drive more conversions. If you haven't already, subscribe or follow to stay updated on future episodes. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, sharing it with somebody who might benefit helps us grow this amazing community. Until next time, keep building with intention and creativity.